Welcome to Earn Loyalty with Customer Data Privacy. This is like the loudest theater ever, so I feel like I should scream on top of being mic'd up, which I might do. But just like raise your hand or something if you can't hear what I am saying. Okay, so couple things here. I'm Marla Hay, Director, Product Management, Privacy and Data Governance.
Shivad Sahib, Software Engineer, same team, Privacy and Data Governance.
Yeah, Mike Friedman, Lead Software Engineer.
All right, thanks. And so today we're going to walk you through a little bit about how to earn loyalty with customer data privacy, and then go into a little bit about some things we have coming out that can help, and then into a demo here with Mike about those things, which will be very exciting. So, little housekeeping to get out of the way, forward-looking statements. Please base all your purchasing decisions off of the product as it exists today, not all the awesomeness that we're about to show you. Okay, so, as you may know, May of this year, we started the General Data Protection Regulation. And you're wondering why I'm talking about this, but it's going somewhere, trust me. As it is known to many people on the internet, however, it was that one day I got 388,373 emails every day for an entire month. Why did this happen? Why is this the response from people on Twitter? People are confused about this thing. You can see it's not just that one guy. It's like every single person on the internet is wondering why they're getting emails from every company they've ever heard of. And they're confused. They're blaming Facebook. They're blaming Google. Why is this happening to me? Or they're blaming the companies that are sending the emails, and this is the worst one, right? They're wondering, why are these companies who are spying on me telling me more about how they're spying on me? This is not fun for these guys. And I had so many of these. I just started throwing them in here. But you get the idea. There's just like this influx of people who are confused about their communications with these customers that they don't trust. Whoop. Okay, so why are all these people having these terrible experiences? Okay, well, so this, for example, is on your left, is a real email that I received as part of kind of the GDPR stuff. And it's kind of long. It's kind of full of legalese. There's a few other aspects that aren't that great. There's 3 bullets here, which kind of seems like, oh, okay, those are the important things, but they don't really give you any information, and they don't give you any ability to do anything about this. There's one link in the email, and it doesn't tell me anything about my data. It just sends me to this privacy policy that's on the right-hand side, and that privacy policy is like 20 times what I'm showing right here. So the gist of this thing, too long, didn't read, and this is why people on the internet are wondering, why are all these companies telling me about how they are spying on me? So is it any wonder that most customers don't believe companies have their best interests in mind? 56% of your own customers think that you're doing something nefarious with their information. So how can we fix this? Thing 1, explain the data you have and how you are using it. This is number 1 kind of table stakes for customer loyalty, for customer trust. Here's a good example of how one company did that. This is ASOS, so this is kind of juxtaposed to the long email that didn't make a ton of sense, that I didn't read, and the link that goes to the privacy policy that's 100 million words long. This is an email that says, here's how you're using us, here's what we're sending you today, here's why we're giving this to you. This is like along the top it says the law is changing, and it's like this animated banner, which I know you're not supposed to do, but it was kind of cool in this case. And then they've got at the bottom here, really easy, get me out of this, opt me out. Change my preferences, opt me in, and here's what I'm opted into. So all that information about me specifically is in this email. It's a great example of how to show people and give people information about what you're doing, what you have on them and how you're using it. So the good news is that when you do this, customers are more likely to trust you. 91% of customers are more trustful of companies who are transparent with their data. So share that data that you have on your customers. Make it accessible. Take the mystery away. Don't make it so that your customers can ask this question. Why is this company that's spying on me giving me an email about how they're spying on me is changing? Okay, so point 2. Only ask for data in exchange for value. Okay, here's what I don't mean by that. Right, this is a form that probably almost everyone here has seen at some point in their life. It's access to a webinar. There's a few fields on here. Some of them are kind of self-explanatory. First name, last name. Okay, sure, that's how you know who's joining. Email address, do they need that? I don't know. It doesn't tell us what they're using it for. Maybe it's super important and critical and I don't mind giving it to them, but I don't really have a choice either, do I? But the worst part here for me is this part that's circled in red, and it's the last 3 words in that sentence. By clicking this button, which you have to do to get into the webinar, you're submitting your information to the organizer who's going to use it for things related to this webinar and their other services. Like, you just opted into marketing to get to a feature that is absolutely mandatory for you to use. That's not a good customer experience. That's not exchanging value for data. That's exchanging a fundamental service for marketing information. So what do I mean by data value exchange? This is a really great example. So in this case, we've got somebody who is in a system, and Yahoo Mail has asked, I didn't ask Pam's permission to this, so don't send it to her. You can do it, it's okay. Where she's being asked by Yahoo Mail, can we get access to your contacts? But this is why we want it. Because we want to help you with this email send. We already have all your email address. You don't have to remember it. Just give us access to your contacts and you can do it. And if you don't want to, that's okay. Just click not now and then we won't do it. Presumably this is in context of actually trying to access an email system that needs contacts. And so you can see how much better is this experience for this user who actually is being asked for a consent for data in exchange for value at the right time and place where that value is needed. So this is a good process to emulate. And data to back that up, customers trust companies with their personal information if they use that information to customize their experience, like getting your contact information, and if they explain how that information improves the experience. So for example, if we went back to the first example that said, hey, I need your email address, if they just said, we need your email address because we need to validate that you know the organizer and there's a white list on the email addresses that are entitled to join. Cool, then I know, and then I don't feel like my email address is going to be sold to Cambridge Analytica just because I'm trying to join a thing I have to join for my job. Okay, that brings us to the third point, which is kind of like a point that's been threaded through these other things, but it's the most critical and it really stands on its own, which is give customers control of their data. This is the most important aspect. So in each example, you are really giving customers control of their data. When you're talking about data transparency, don't just show them the data that you're using, give them the ability to say, I don't want you to use that data that way anymore. When you're asking them for data in exchange for value, give them the ability to make a choice about it. So in the Yahoo example, you saw that there was that's okay, not now, you don't have to do this. On all of the good examples, we'll just include this inherently. So give customers the choice. Let them feel like whatever data they're giving you is because they want to give it to you. And the great news, and this is an example of, this is another one of my personal examples. This is my opt-in out page at Medium. And you can see they give you a ton of options here. So I can go to, I can opt in or out of any of the specific emails that they send, or at the bottom you see I can just turn the whole thing off. So they're giving me total control over it. And the great news is that customers will trust companies if they have control over the data. So 95% of customers will trust companies if they're given control of their data, which is a huge number. And so we talked about compliance at the beginning. And so the message here, and I felt a shudder from every lawyer that is at Dreamforce right now who works for Salesforce. Don't treat customers in a way that's compliant. Don't send them legalese emails because you have to send them legalese emails. Treat them the way that they want to be treated. Treat them like the way that they are. You're in a relationship with these people and you're establishing this trust with them, and it creates this wonderful virtuous circle of information and feedback that allows you to get more data as you give them more value for that data. And just to pacify any lawyers in the audience, do both. Also be compliant. So we talked a lot about trust, but what does this have to do with loyalty? Well, this is kind of the big stat at the end. Trust is loyalty. If you establish a trusted relationship with your customers, you are establishing loyalty from those customers. They really are one and the same. So get that trusted relationship through kind of the points that we mentioned, and you will end up having customers that are loyal to you and provide data more easily to your organization, which will allow you to do things like personalization, customization, things that continue to engender your customers to you. Okay, so what's coming from Salesforce to help? We're working on some things that are in development. This is all either immediate or near term, so keep those forward-looking statements in mind, and I'm going to pass it over to Siobhan to talk through that.
Thanks, Marla. Hello, everyone. I'll be going over what our team has built in order to let you manage your users' consent information in a better way. So really, the consent management journey begins with the creation of the individual object. So as you know, Salesforce has many different objects, accounts, contacts, leads, and the issue is that the consent information is kind of spread across all these different objects. So which is why the individual object was introduced, so as to give like a unified view across all the consent information for your users. So how would you use this? So let's say you're trying to ask the question, can I track lead hey? So in this example, you see that lead hey is actually connected to the individual Marla hey, which is then connected to other objects. So like if you're trying to answer the question, can I track lead hey? Well, the tracking part of it is actually on the individual object and not the lead object. So you need to go to lead hey, figure out the relationship. You see that, oh, there's a link to the individual. Go to the individual object and then see do not track is true. So it turns out that you can't track them. And this is where the consent API comes in. So the consent API does all the work to figure out all these different relationships between the objects. And so you can basically pass in an action, so can I track, and a list of users or IDs, in this case L001. And you can ask, can I track L001? And the API does all the work in the background to figure out that you can, in fact, not do that. And here's an example API call and an example response, and Mike will be going over that in the demo. The other feature we built is data classification. So this basically lets customers decide the classification levels for certain fields in their objects. So here you see on the birth date field, we have said that the security classification should be confidential, and you can set it to be one of 5 different security classification levels. And how is this useful? So like here's an example. RevCult, as you can see in the top right, is a Salesforce partner, ISV, and they built a service where based on the severity level, or like that corresponds to a security classification, you can actually have your fields, let's say an account, be automatically encrypted. And that's done using the Salesforce platform encryption, which is kind of cool. And this is actually in pilot, the data classification feature. So if you're interested, talk to Marla. And Mike will now be going over a demo of both of these two things.
Oh. Yeah, thank you, Siobhan. What I'm going to do is demonstrate the consent API and also the data classification feature. So, could you switch the video? Okay. Great. So here's using Workbench. This is an example call to the REST API. You provide it with an action. An action could be like email, fax, phone, solicit, track, which is like knowing whether they opened the email or not. Geo-track. Can you geo-track that person? Can you profile them? Process. There's a whole list of actions that you can propose that you want to perform with respect to someone. And then you pass one or more IDs. This could be a contact ID, a lead ID, a person account ID, a user ID, or even just an email address. And then what the API will do is that it'll track down all the information that it needs. You know, every time, wherever that person had opted in, opted out, and apply a standard policy to it, and return a value of true or false, telling you whether you can proceed with that particular action that you proposed. So here I'm asking about the action of tracking someone, and I'm passing their an individual ID. And then here's the response that it gave. It said, yes, you can go ahead and track this person. And then if you go into verbose mode, by passing verbose equal true, then it'll give you an explanation of every object and field that it consulted in making its decision. In this case, it was very simple. This person had an opt-out value of false for tracking, and we can go ahead and track that person. So that's how that works. Now, next topic I'm going to talk about is data classification. So here is the contact object, and you see it has all these fields that are available. And what you can do with this data classification feature is that you can say that a particular field belongs to one of these different standard security classifications. So it's kind of like metadata about that field. So let's take birth date, which in some contexts would be considered kind of personal information. So if I edit that field, you see there's a drop-down security classification, and it has all these ISO standard categories. So let's say I'll set it to confidential level and save that. And now I go to a set of reports. One report that I created was one that shows for each field the various metadata in that field. So let's go to the metadata report. And you can see now birth date security classification is set to confidential. So that's that field, and that concludes my demo.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.
Can we switch back to the deck? Cool. Thank you, guys. So first of all, huge thank you for coming and listening to this. Please do attend the Build Apps of the Future keynote if you're interested. And then we did leave some time for questions if there are any. And I'm actually going to leave it on this slide so that you guys can take pictures of it if you want to. But open to questions if there are any. All very well explained. No questions. Cool.
Marla.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Do we have mics? No?
I joined very late, but is that a new feature where you can specify the classification? Is it for standard and custom fields or
Both. Yeah. So
custom objects or just contact?
it is all objects. So this was the question. I'll repeat it. So the question was, is the data classification available for standard or custom objects, and which fields? And it's all fields, all objects, both standard and custom.
Those reports are also new?
Yeah. Yes. So the other question was whether the reports. Do we do the other reports in the slides? I don't remember.
Not in the slides.
Not in the slides. Okay. Yes, the reports are also new. So the data classification and the reports associated with the classification are in pilot. So if you're interested in joining, we can talk later and get you set up. But yeah, these are all new features that are available in pilot today. Thanks. Yeah. Can we grab?
Is it only for Lightning?
Is it? No, it works with both. The question was, is this only for Lightning? And the answer is, it works both in Lightning and standard. or classic? Any other questions?
Someone there.
Wait, oh, that was a wave. I guess that was
Oh.
not a question.
Oh.
Thanks. Any other questions? All right. Well, thanks very much, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.